watching The End Zone, sponsored by Lucky Star Casino.
And welcome to another edition of The End Zone along with TJ Eckert. I am Colby Daniels. Hope everyone is surviving the winter Mageddon that we've experienced this week. TJ, my friend, it's great to see you, although the snow and the ice have prevented you from being in studio. It's good to see your face. Have you survived the elements?
Yeah, it's been okay. It's cold, obviously. It's been really cold this week. There's an argument from Tulsa area high school football fans that driving up and down the turnpike isn't safe to begin with, so adding a little snow and ice doesn't make it any better, right? So I'm glad I've stayed put this week.
On the nicest day that this planet has ever experienced, your life is in danger on the turnpike, 100%. So add the weather elements in there, and it could get very scary. Maybe not as scary as what OU basketball fans are going through, right? I mean, what a run it's been through the conference portion of the schedule. They start undefeated in the non-conference. I think they ranked as high as number 12 in the country, but now 3-10 in SEC play. And some of these losses, TJ, have been brutal.
They have, and you know, the problem or the conundrum that OU fans are in right now is that, like, you've played 3 of the top 5 teams in the country in the past couple weeks, and I don't think you go into those games expecting to win. That's understood, right? You expect, though, especially if this is a tournament team, you expect them to compete and look competitive, and getting blown out by 20 plus, a Tennessee game, I guess they lost by 18, but getting blown out by a significant margin in all of those games, that's been troublesome. And then you throw in the fact that you lose to Missouri, who is a former conference rival, and they're good this year, obviously, but you get blown out by them, and then you lose that game against LSU, and it just hasn't been pretty these last couple weeks.
6 losses by double digits, 5 losses by 18 or more points, and then you have the A&M loss, which you led by 18 in the second half, and the LSU loss kind of felt like the cherry on top. You blow a 5-point lead with 24 seconds to go. This team has not only been blown out, but they've experienced the heartbreaking not being able to finish type of losses. It's kind of checked every single box, if you will.
And I think the more surprising thing is the argument for Porter Moser's tenure really is that they've always struggled in non-conference play. And so I think last year was the first time OU fans were like, okay, they started off well in non-conference. The only loss there was to North Carolina, who was coming off a national championship, and people were like, let's pump the brakes, let's wait and see how they look in league play, and then they struggled there too. This year was different. We've talked about this before. The wins they have in the non-con led me to believe, and a lot of people to believe, that this team was different than all of those, and you run into a historically good SEC conference, but you would still expect them to be more competitive, and they just really haven't, especially here down the stretch.
Are you selling their chances of making the NCAA tournament with what's left on the schedule, or because the schedule is so tough, could they play their way in this thing?
I mean, right now, I think if the season ended now, I'm not a bracketologist, but most people still have them in, so technically they're still in. But
they're on the bubble.
They need to win at least they have to win at least 3 games probably to get in, and given what's happened the past few weeks, you're not very confident in that. Now, Porter Moser has continued to say we have plenty of opportunities still, and you do, but you have to go out there and actually do it. Just because you have the opportunity doesn't mean you're going to take advantage of it. So they have to take advantage of some of these games they have down the stretch.
Well, for the fans that have quit paying attention to OU basketball, let's shift our focus to the second most popular sport on campus. That's got to be OU softball, who is 10-0. I believe in the latest rankings, they are number 2 in the country. And they haven't played at Love's Field yet this year, TJ. They were supposed to play in the Norman tournament beginning earlier this week. Because of the weather, it's been pushed back. So they'll have a doubleheader on Saturday, a doubleheader on Sunday, and then they'll wrap things up on Monday. But 5 games at Love's Field over the weekend into Monday. And this is a team that has passed every test so far on the road.
They have, and there was some fears or concern from that first road trip out to California. They got pushed a couple times, went to extras twice. One of those was to San Diego State, and there was like this little, is this a good thing? Is this team struggling? Whatever. San Diego State's proven to be pretty solid so far in the early portion of this season. The 1-0 win against Long Beach in extras was a little odd, but then they go out and they beat Baylor twice, which was impressive to see. So you said it correctly. They've passed every test so far. And again, similar to basketball, the SEC and softball's impossible. So once they get to that point, we'll see what they look like there.
Should be a lot of fun. We're going to take a timeout. On the other side, a familiar face is back in Norman, and we'll talk about the potential college football playoff format changes. That's next here on the End Zone. Welcome back to the End Zone along with TJ Eckert. I am Colby Daniels. We've got to talk college football, right? I mean, it is the End Zone. And TJ, big news this week. Somebody you are very familiar with, the Tulsa head coach, or the former Tulsa head football coach, Kevin Wilson, is back in Norman. He was the OC under Bob Stoops for a number of years before becoming a head coach in multiple stops. But Kevin Wilson now working for Brent Venables. What were your thoughts when you heard the news?
I was surprised because I wasn't sure what Kevin Wilson's plan was once he got let go at TU. And, you know, he could have just kind of sat around and I know he's a big golfer. He could have just kind of been retired and played golf, and I think he's doing fine financially, so he didn't need to do this, but it makes sense, right? He's in the state of Oklahoma. He is one of his former really good friends, is now the head coach down the road at OU. And they've just brought in an offensive coordinator, a young offensive coordinator, to call the plays there in a pretty high-level atmosphere and environment, high pressure for Ben Arbuckle. So it makes sense to bring in a veteran like Wilson to kind of just sit there and help him manage games and go over game plans. And he's a great offensive mind, really good, really fun to talk to about offense. So it makes a lot of sense for Venables too.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's never a bad thing, right, to bring someone in that knows what they're doing. Even if Ben Arbuckle is your OC, I don't think that bringing in Kevin Wilson is a signal of any sort of clashing of heads. It's just a resource, right? And to have a resource of that magnitude available to a young guy like Ben Arbuckle, I think is extremely valuable. But the other side of this, and you hit on it with your final comment, it's a valuable resource to Brent Venables as well, who's still early in his head coaching career. And while he's being brought in, Kevin Wilson that is, as an offensive analyst, having a guy that is set in that head seat in multiple stops, I think is very valuable to a young head coach in terms of just all the different areas that you have to address a football team in.
Right, and I think you could argue it makes sense for him to do something like that on the defensive side of the ball as well, right? A guy who is a defensive-minded past head coach that could come in and basically just take a little bit of the load off for him would be nice. I think what Wilson will be able to do is he can take some of the stresses off of, back to Arbuckle, take some of that stress off of him, not from a play calling standpoint because that's Arbuckle, that's what he's going to be doing. But it's going to help him during the week in terms of game planning, what to look for on film. And then Wilson's been in that exact seat before, in that exact same press box, in that same coach's office. So a lot of familiarity there. And again, if people are wondering, like, why is this something they're doing? Wilson's not the head coach at OU. He's not the offensive coordinator at OU. He's just simply, as you mentioned, the word, a resource for all those people in that office.
That's becoming the popular trend, right, for coaches that are fired or move on to another location is go into the analyst role where it's not all on your shoulders, and I would imagine it probably just allows you to decompress from whatever stressful job you just left or were fired from and maybe just kind of reignite the competitive juices.
Yeah, exactly. And Wilson mentioned it. I went back and listened to the press conference from when OU came to Tulsa a couple seasons ago. Really, they're both really good friends and really close, and I had some video of them on the field before the game, and they were obviously having a great conversation and laughing and enjoying each other's company. So that helps too, just having a familiar face in there when you're going through a stressful situation like we know Venables is right now.
All right, let's talk about the college football playoff. We had the first year of the 12-team format this season. I thought it was awesome. I had a ton of fun watching it play out. I think we all agree that maybe the way they seed teams could be better, or if they want to expand the field, I would be okay with that as well. This week, there's conversations being had in regards to what the future of the CFP looks like, and if we'll see changes in 2025. Now, for 2025 to have any changes, there will have to be a unanimous decision between the 10 conference commissioners and Notre Dame for that to take place this year. But beyond this year, TJ, if there's no agreement, it stays the same for one more year. But then it's the SEC and the Big Ten having complete control of what the format looks like for 6 seasons.
Hard to believe, like, that they have this kind of power, influence, I guess is the word maybe you'd want to say. It feels like, to your point, I would imagine that the SEC and the Big Ten are trying to flex their muscles a little bit to have a change happen soon. And to your point, if you don't agree to necessarily what they want, their demands, if you will, then they have almost full control when it comes back around in a couple of years. So I would imagine they're trying to be as collaborative as possible. There needs to be some changes. You hit on them already, but ultimately what's going to end up happening is that the SEC and the Big Ten are going to look out for themselves first, and the other conferences maybe just have to play along with it.
So they have full control, but I guess it's written into the contract that they have to at least get input from the Big 12 and from the ACC, which is amusing to me that you just have to hear what they have to say and then you can still go make whatever choice you want to make. I like that they had that specifically written in, that you have to listen to my point of view. You don't have to take my advice, but you at least have to hear me out. Seeing some of Greg Sankey's comments this week, I very much get the impression that they are fighting for a change to the 2025 format in exchange for maybe the SEC and the Big Ten to weigh that input a little more heavily after this season. And if the Big 12 or whoever doesn't play ball this year, I think they're going to probably be, in some ways, locked out of the conversation a year from now.
Exactly. And so it's almost like, do you want to try your best to, as you say, collaborate, have your opinion heard now, and have a chance to have a say now? Or do you want to play hardball if you're one of the other power conferences and then lose basically what sounds like all of your negotiating power in a couple of years? So it's a tough situation. The SEC and Big Ten have navigated all this realignment better than anybody else, and so right now they have the leg up. And the Big 12, the ACC, and funny that we have to say all the conferences and Notre Dame. All of those other conferences and Notre Dame probably need to start getting collaborative now, or they lose that when you go in a couple of years.
One of the popular formats is the 14-team format that I'll explain in the next segment. And speaking of the next segment, smash or punt. Coming up next, along with TJ Eckert, I'm Colby Daniels. This is The End Zone. Welcome back to the End Zone. I'm Colby Daniels along with TJ Eckert. All right, we're going to do smash or punt here, TJ. I'm going to throw out a topic. If you approve of the topic, you smash. If you disapprove of the topic, you want to get it out of here, you're going to punt it away, right? We're just going to punt, say I don't like that.
Got it.
No go. So before we start, just for a little context on this very first one, I've got to throw up a tweet from OU quarterback John Mateer, who proclaimed this week, TJ, that pineapple belongs on pizza. That's his go-to. He said that he went out to eat this week and he got a pepperoni pizza, but they didn't have pineapple. He loves pineapple on pizza. So, for the first smash or punt, pineapple on pizza. What do you got?
Yeah, punt. Fruit doesn't belong on a pizza, and I stand by that. I don't think that's a controversial take. I could be. Maybe you like pineapple on pizza. It's just not my first choice.
I'm going to punt as well. And it's not one of those things that I'm like heels in the ground. I absolutely despise it. Like I would never eat it in a million years. If it was the only thing available, I would eat it. I don't hate it, but it's never going to be my choice, right? If I have the choice of any type of pizza, pineapple on pizza is never going to be my choice. But I'm going to punt that away just like you and give me like the all meat pizza, right? Give me all the meats.
There you go.
All right. Smash or punt item number 2. OU basketball, 3-10 in conference play. It's been another pretty much like face plant once you get into conference play after a successful non-con. OU basketball will have a new head coach next season. Smash or punt?
I think that what I had been saying throughout the years was if they don't make the tournament, he gets fired, Porter Moser. And so if the trend of play they've been showing the past few weeks continues, they're not going to make the tournament. I think he gets fired. So yeah, I would say that smash. We're going to smash that. I think he's going to get fired because they're not going to make the tournament.
All right, I'm actually going to disagree. I'm going to punt this one. And it's not because I think that there's not an interest maybe in doing what you just said if they don't make the tournament. But we found out earlier this week his buyout is $7.5 million. You also have a head football coach that it feels like is going into a hot seat year, a make or break year, if you will. And you might have to spend a lot of money on the football program as well. I don't know that you can really afford to do both, and you might have to hold back some money to see what happens during the football season. So I'm going to say punt, and I'm going to say regardless of what happens, OU might just have to swallow this next season and get through one more year before they ultimately make a decision on basketball.
Well, and they just sent out an email asking for more financial help from the alumni and the fans. So you're right. Maybe that's what they're asking for is money to help pay for buyouts. Maybe that's what it was.
It could be. It could be. All right. We talked about the college football playoff in the previous segment. So a future CFP model that I guess is the one that has the most traction is a 14-team playoff, TJ. It would give the SEC 4 automatic bids. It would give the Big Ten 4 automatic bids. The Big 12 would get 2 automatic bids. The ACC would get 2 automatic bids. The top group of 5 champion would get an automatic bid. And Notre Dame, if they rank inside the top 14, would get an automatic bid. Otherwise, the final spot would be an at-large bid. Smash or punt the 14-team model that is described as the 4-4-2-2-1-1 model?
Punt. Because I think 14 is still a weird number. Why can't we do 16 and just make it a normal bracket? And I don't know how I feel about guaranteed berths for conferences because I just don't know how that conference is going to be any given year, right? So why not? I'm good with rewarding the best conferences with more bids, but why do we have to be specific with every year with being consistent? I just feel like there could be a year where there's 3 Big 12 teams that are deserving, or 3 from the 8, whatever. Any conference, name it. So I'll punt. But I like the idea of adding more teams. I think that for me is a given. We need to have more.
The only thing I'll say about having a guaranteed number of automatic bids is it is motivation, I think, for you to play a tougher schedule. In the current model, I mean, how many teams did we have in the playoff last year that didn't have a quality win, right? In the current model, there's no motivation to have a quality schedule. I think in that model, at least, there is motivation for teams to play quality competition. But I will say, like you, I don't like the 14 number. I think it's weird, and I want to get rid of the buys. So punt on the 4-4-2-2-1-1 CFP model. All right, last one. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, we believe, is going to be the MVP of the NBA this year. He has a new signature shoe by Converse. You smashing or punting the SGA signature shoe?
I'm not going to smash or punt. I'm going to burn. There shouldn't be a zipper on a shoe, Colby. I'll keep it at that.
Oh, okay. You caught me by surprise. I'm going to smash it for a basketball shoe, but I would punt it away if it's just an everyday wear. I wouldn't wear it just every day, but on the court, I think it looks good. I would wear it as a basketball shoe only. So smash it as a basketball shoe, and TJ, my man, is setting it ablaze.
You're more hip than me, so I understand.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. Let's take our final timeout. Speaking of the Thunder, what do they have ahead as the All-Star break comes to an end? That's next here on The End Zone. All right, TJ, as we wrap up the show, the NBA All-Star break has ended. The Thunder are back in action. 28 games to go until the playoffs. The Thunder leading the Western Conference by 8 games, and they're tied with Cleveland for the best record in the NBA. I will ask you this the rest of the way. 28 games to go. Who is OKC's biggest competition in the West once we get to the postseason?
I mean, nobody is the correct answer, but if you're looking at, who would pose the biggest problem when you get to the postseason, I'd probably Denver, right? Just because you got Jokic, right? Like that's probably the only one that would really give you any fear. I think the Lakers are a tough matchup, obviously, but I don't know who else they have beyond LeBron and Luka that would really give you a ton of issues. So I would say the Nuggets just because of Nikola Jokic, really.
Wemby is now out for the season, by the way, so I guess write San Antonio off of that list. I would say Denver would be in my top spot 100%, and they've been playing good basketball as well. Minnesota's length, while I don't think they're nearly as talented as they were last year, their length could be an issue over the course of a 7-game series, particularly on those nights that OKC shots aren't going down. But I'm with you overall. I don't think anybody. I think the West is the Thunder's to lose. For TJ Eckert, I am Colby Daniels. This has been The End Zone. Everybody have a great weekend.